Southern Comfort from 1981 is one of those films that feels both strangely familiar and completely overlooked. Directed by Walter Hill, it sits somewhere between a war movie, a survival thriller, and a slow-burn horror piece. And even after 4 decades, it still has this raw, unsettling power. Today we are diving deep into the film's background, the people who made it, the harsh production, the themes lurking under the surface, and how it was received then, and how it's finally getting the recognition it deserves today. Let's start with the creative core. Directed by Walter Hill, a filmmaker famous for his stripped-down, tough-as-nails genre style. If you know The Warriors, 48 Hours or Streets of Fire, you know what I mean. Hill has always been great at stories about groups, how they work, how they fall apart, how people behave when order starts to slip. The script began with an original draft by Michael Caine and was later rewritten by Hill and his longtime collaborator David Giller, the same duo who worked together on Alien. The cast is just incredible. Keith Carradine as Spencer, the calm, centered part of the group. Powers Boothe as Hardin, the outsider, the guy who never really wants to be there in the first place.
Well, tell me how you like being in the Louisiana National Guard all of a sudden.
I don't. Yes, sir. But then I didn't much like being in the Texas Guard either.
Fred Ward as Reese, intense, unpredictable, and a constant fuse waiting to be lit. Peter Coyote shows up as a sergeant trying to keep things together.
That's right. Try to remember that.
And Brion James is also here in one of the film's most memorable small roles, playing a one-armed Cajun trapper. He barely speaks, and every time he appears, you are not sure if he's a threat, an ally, or something in between.
I'm not going to kill y'all if I don't got to.
Behind the camera you have Andrew Laszlo shooting in real swamps, and Ry Cooder composing one of his most atmospheric, moody scores. The music alone feels like fog rising off bayou water. The production story is almost as brutal as what happens in the movie. The budget was around $7.6 million, not tiny but not big either for a film shot almost entirely outdoors on difficult terrain. And this was no set. They filmed deep in Louisiana swamps around Caddo Lake near Shreveport, where you sink knee-deep in mud if you stand still for too long. Walter Hill later said that everything was sinking: the gear, the tripods, the actors. Powers Boothe described it as unbelievably tough because they would climb out of muck just to get right back into more muck. The shoot lasted 55 days, often with poor weather, unpredictable water levels, and an environment that wanted to eat them alive. But it's also what gives the movie its authenticity. The swamp feels like a character. It traps people, confuses them, wears them down. And ironically, Hill had trouble even getting the movie greenlit. Studios didn't want it. Eventually, an independent production arm connected to Fox stepped in, but even then, everyone knew this wasn't a film that was going to be easy to market. I don't want to spoil too much of the story, but this film is really all about the character dynamics anyway, and you kind of have to experience it yourself to really get it. The film follows a group of Louisiana National Guardsmen on what's supposed to be a routine training exercise.
Y'all buddies, you're counting and depending on each other. Everybody does their job. Now please, for once in your life, try to look like soldiers.
Civilian in peace, soldier in war.
They are not at war. They are not even fully armed. They carry rifles loaded with blanks.
Now, the Louisiana Guard's a little different. They have us out doing really important things like beating up on college kids with tear gas and
But then they make a series of stupid decisions in someone else's territory, and everything spirals out of control. When they cross through an area belonging to local Cajuns, they borrow some canoes.
I don't think we should take the canoes. They're not ours.
And because this is a Walter Hill movie and men can't stop posturing, one of the soldiers fires blanks in the air just to be a smartass.
Take no prisoners!
The Cajuns fire back, except they are not using blanks.
Sarge!
This is the moment when the fun, macho adventure suddenly turns into a fight for survival. A second ago there were no real stakes, and now they are shot through the roof. The group is lost.
Damn, compass is gone.
Panicked, distrustful, and hunted. The deeper they go, the more the terrain and the tension break them down. Leadership and rationality collapses.
Who says?
I say, I got the stripes, I'm in charge, and I don't want to hear any more shit about it.
And slowly, member by member, the group becomes smaller. The brilliance of the story is that it's not about the Cajuns being evil. The Guardsmen are the one who started, and that is very clear from the beginning. They don't understand the land, the people, or the consequences of their arrogance.
I guess I was a little, over-emotional.
Yeah, you could say that.
And that moral ambiguity is what gives the film its punch. While Hill never intended a direct Vietnam allegory, Southern Comfort is practically begging to be read that way. American soldiers in an unfamiliar territory, acting like conquerors, provoking locals, and then paying the price for it. But the film's philosophy extends beyond Vietnam. This movie is about masculinity under pressure, group psychology and the collapse of hierarchy, the illusion of control, and territory, who it belongs to and who thinks they own it. The swamp becomes symbolic, it strips away identity and status. The soldiers walk in with their uniform, their sense of superiority, their assumptions about others, and the swamp dissolves it all. They become scared animals, stumbling in circles, lashing out, turning on each other. And there is also a harsh critique of cultural arrogance. The Cajuns aren't villains, they are defending their home. They know the terrain, they understand the silence, the patience and the precision. The National Guardsmen understand none of that. The final sequence, emerging from the swamp into a Cajun village full of life, music and celebration, a haunting contrast. It's a moment of surreal beauty, ritual, community and peace, but it's just an illusion, and violence erupts again. These soldiers are cursed, and there is no way to escape the chaos they carry with them. Back then, when Southern Comfort came out, critics generally liked it. Roger Ebert gave it 3 stars and praised its tight construction, but audiences didn't show up. The movie earned only about $2.9 million domestically. It didn't make money, and Hill later said he was quite disappointed. Over time though, the film has developed a cult following. Modern critics revisit it as one of Hill's most layered films, a powerful deconstruction of macho group dynamics, an underrated survival thriller, and a movie that's more relevant now than it ever was. Today, Southern Comfort is often mentioned alongside films like Deliverance or Hill's own The Warriors, stories where the environment becomes a psychological test and the characters discover who they really are when the rules change. It's one of those movies that quietly grows its reputation year after year, and if you've never seen it, or if you've seen it a long time ago, it's absolutely worth revisiting, especially now, knowing what went into making it. Southern Comfort is a film that lives somewhere in the space between genres, a thriller, a psychological drama, a war allegory that doesn't want to be an allegory, and a survival story where the biggest enemy is the group itself. Walter Hill once said that the audiences never really found the movie, but those who did have been talking about it ever since. And with its atmosphere, its tension, its moral complexity, and its absolutely brutal, unforgettable swamp setting, it deserves to be rediscovered again and again. And if you enjoyed this, stick around. I've got plenty more rediscovered gems on the way, along with deep dives into character actors we all secretly adore. There's a lot of great cinema out there waiting to be talked about. Thanks for watching.